Wealth isn't just a number. It's not the size of your house, not the shine on your car or the title on your business card. Wealth is a mindset, a frequency, and only those tuned to it truly, deeply, relentlessly tuned to it ever build it from the ground up and keep it. The poor chase money, the wealthy attract it, the average cling to what they have, the great become magnets for abundance because they think differently. There is one mindset, one above all others, that draws wealth in like gravity. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. It is the refusal to drift, the complete and total domination of your thoughts. It's not wanting a better life, it's deciding, declaring it's already yours, and then sculpting reality to match. This isn't about delusion, it's not about pretending, it's about mastery over the one thing that controls everything else. Your mind. Most people's thoughts are scattered like leaves in the wind, chasing one thing on Monday, a new distraction by Friday. Their dreams don't die because they weren't good enough. They die because their minds are undisciplined. But the wealthy, they don't hope for success. They organize their thoughts like a general commands an army. They eliminate what's irrelevant. They focus with terrifying intensity, because wealth begins where distraction ends. It starts the moment you say, "This is what I will become. This is what I will build, and I will not stop until it exists in the physical world." That is the moment you start thinking in a way most people never do. And the moment you do, life bends, doors appear, voices answer, resources shift. Because when your purpose is definite, the universe becomes obedient. But that kind of purpose only comes from within. No mentor can give it to you. No motivational video can inject it. It must be born inside the fire of your own soul. You must be willing to go where others. One single quote. To burn the boats. To kill the excuses. To bet on yourself when everyone else calls it foolish. Because that's the foundation of wealth. Belief. Not surface level belief. Not the kind that only lives in a journal or a vision board. The kind that lives in your bones. The kind that persists even when every outer sign says you're losing. That belief is forged in the dark. Think of Henry Ford, the man who built an industry while the world mocked him. They said he was crazy for trying to mass-produce cars. He didn't just believe in the automobile, he believed in himself, even when his first company failed, even when investors pulled out, even when his own team doubted. He kept building, kept believing, and the world caught up. Belief is the soil where wealth takes root, but belief without clarity, that's a dream without a destination. You must know exactly what you want, how much. Why, when, and why. The universe doesn't respond to vague intentions. It responds to precise direction. The wealthy decide, they don't dabble, they don't try, they define. Andrew Carnegie didn't say, "I'd like to be rich someday." He declared he would become the king of steel, and he did, because his desire was backed by clarity, and clarity gave birth to vision. Vision is the film you play in your mind over and over until reality has no choice but to imitate it. It's more than imagination, it's intention. Written in fire, you must see it before you touch it, feel it before it's real, walk inside the home you haven't built, smell the leather of the car you haven't bought, speak with the certainty of a future that hasn't yet arrived. This is not fantasy. This is alignment. The future you want already exists, you just haven't stepped into it yet. And vision is how you step. But a clear vision is nothing if it isn't tied to purpose. Purpose is the engine. It's what keeps the vision alive when progress feels invisible. It's what makes the climb worth it when your legs want to collapse. It's what makes the fight sacred. Lincoln didn't push through civil war, national collapse, and personal grief for fame. He was driven by purpose, unity, liberty, a future where freedom would mean more than a word. The wealthiest people in history weren't chasing bank accounts. They were chasing impact. Money was just the echo of their purpose, a shadow cast by something deeper. And when your purpose is deep enough, you become dangerous, because no setback can shake someone who knows why they're still swinging. No failure can destroy someone who's already burned their bridges back to mediocrity. When purpose lives inside you, Nothing outside of you can stop you, but purpose without discipline is a torch with no fuel. You can have a clear vision. You can believe so deeply it shakes the ground. But if you don't show up daily, even when it hurts, even when it's silent, it dies. Discipline is the difference between wishing and becoming. It's what separates those who speak of goals from those who achieve them. You think Carnegie felt like showing up every day. You think Ford always felt like grinding through broken machines and frustrated engineers. You think Disney smiled through betrayal, debt, and rejection. No, but they showed up anyway, because discipline is a decision, not a feeling, and that's the real secret, the one most people don't want to hear. The wealthy don't chase motivation, they execute. Regardless of mood, they act because the mission demands it, because their word to themselves matters more than how they feel today. You want to know how someone becomes unstoppable. They honor the promises they make in silence. They act when no one is watching. They build in the dark, and then the world wakes up one day and calls it overnight success. But success never comes overnight. It comes one action at a time, stacked, repeated, relentless. You don't need more ideas. You need more execution. You don't need perfect conditions. You need the courage to move despite imperfection, because wealth doesn't come to the most inspired, it comes to the most consistent, and every action, no matter how small, is a signal to the universe. I'm serious. I'm coming, I will not be moved. But while you build, you must guard your heart, because real wealth requires a grounded soul, and that comes from gratitude. Gratitude is the anchor. Without it, ambition turns to greed. Hustle becomes hollow, and even if you reach the top, it will never feel like enough. Gratitude is what lets you smile while you climb. It lets you rest without guilt. It reminds you that every step forward is a gift, not an entitlement. Edison, after losing his entire factory in a fire, said, "Thank God all our mistakes were burned. Now we can start fresh." That is not a man chasing wealth, that is a man embodying it, because gratitude transforms loss into learning. It transforms setbacks into strategy. And when you live in gratitude, you become nimble, you bend, you pivot, you adapt. Because if you're going to build lasting wealth, you cannot be rigid. The market shifts, technology evolves. What worked last year won't work tomorrow. Look at Kodak. They invented the digital camera and still died. Why? Because they clung to comfort. They loved familiarity more than they loved the future. Now look at Amazon. It started as a bookstore, but Bezos didn't marry the product, he married the principle. Serve faster, serve smarter, serve bigger, and now it's not a bookstore, it's the infrastructure of modern commerce. Adaptability is not a luxury, it is survival. You must be willing to reinvent yourself as often as necessary. Shift your strategy without betraying your vision. Destroy what's good in pursuit of what's great, but adaptation isn't always clean. Sometimes it's brutal, sometimes it's lonely, and that's why you need resilience. Resilience is your armor when the world throws stones. It's your fire when the cold sets in. It's the voice that whispers, "Get up." We're not finished. Lincoln lost elections. He buried family. He led a fractured nation. But he didn't break. He didn't run. He didn't fold. Because resilience doesn't care about circumstances. It's not dependent on outcomes. Lives in your decision to never bow to failure. Disney was told he lacked imagination. Edison was called a fool. Ford was laughed out of rooms. But they refused to make failure their final chapter. If you're going to build wealth, you will get hit. You will be doubted. You will fail not once, but often. And that's okay, because every fall gives you one more reason to rise with sharper focus, cleaner systems, deeper hunger. Let the world say what it wants. Let them measure you by your setbacks, because when you rise, and you will, they will see what resilience really looks like. But to keep rising, you must be willing to learn, not just read, not just collect quotes to sound smart at parties, but to be transformed by knowledge. Empty your cup again and again and say, "I do not know everything, but I am willing to learn anything." The wealthy are not just thinkers, They are students always. They absorb, they observe, they refine. They understand what Napoleon Hill wrote nearly a century ago, that ignorance is not just a lack of information, it's a refusal to evolve, and evolution is non-negotiable if you want to build wealth that lasts, because money without wisdom is a curse. It vanishes. It corrupts. It collapses on itself. But knowledge, that's compound interest for the soul. Rockefeller studied economics and risk. Carnegie studied leadership and leverage. Oprah studied people and psychology. Jobs studied beauty and simplicity, and all of them, they stayed students long after they became masters, because they knew the moment you think you've made it is the moment you begin to fall. So never stop learning. Study your craft, study your failures, study the patterns, the history, the giants who came before you, because wealth isn't created in isolation. It's created by standing on the shoulders of giants and saying, I see what you built. Now watch what I do with it. But learning must lead to alignment. You don't become unstoppable just by collecting tools. You become unstoppable when your thoughts, your words, your actions all march in the same direction. No friction, no hesitation, a straight, focused line of fire. Most people live in contradiction. They say they want freedom, but they won't get disciplined. They say they want abundance, but they complain about opportunity. They say they want wealth, but they're unwilling to risk comfort. But wealth only comes when you align. Your choices must match your claims. Your effort must match your ambition. Your sacrifices must match your vision. That alignment, that's when the world takes you seriously. That's when your mind stops battling itself and begins moving like a machine. No wasted energy. No second guessing. Just momentum. And once you have momentum, you start to feel something deeper, something stronger, something most people never taste. Inner wealth, not the kind you flash, not the kind you deposit, the kind that radiates when your soul is rich. It doesn't matter what's in your account, because your mind is your vault. Your principles are your assets. Your habits are your portfolio. You become the type of person that money wants to follow, because you're not chasing it out of desperation. You're pulling it in through who you've become. This is what they don't teach in schools. This is what the loudest voices online forget to say, that real wealth is not just about income. It's about identity. You don't need to get rich. You need to become someone who cannot help but attract it. Because when your thoughts are clear, your beliefs are unshakable, your actions are aligned, and your spirit is rooted in gratitude and purpose, wealth becomes inevitable. Not fast, not easy, but inevitable. Because your life becomes a reflection of your inner world, and your inner world, it's unstoppable. But if everything you've heard so far fades tomorrow, let this remain burned into your bones. You are the creator, not the victim, not the follower, not the statistic, the creator. This is the one mindset that builds wealth. Not in the bank, but in your blood, in your breath, in every waking hour of your life. You were never meant to crawl through life, apologizing for your ambition. You were never built to play small, to wait for permission, to obey rules written by people who never understood your fire. You were built to imagine. Lead. Rise, not by luck, not by chance, but by decision. By sacrifice. By ownership. Because here's the truth they don't put on billboards. No one's coming. No savior, no shortcut, no secret millionaire mentor, just you, and the clock, and the mirror, and the question, what are you going to do about it? Will you keep scrolling, wishing, wondering what your life could have been? Or will you decide today that enough is enough? That your story will not end in mediocrity, that your children and their children will not inherit your doubts, but your fire, your vision, your legacy. You think wealth is about money. Wrong. Wealth is the power to choose how you live. Build. When others beg. Give. When others grasp. Walk away. When others stay trapped. Rise. When others break. And that kind of wealth, the kind that outlives you, begins with one single decision: to own your mind. Because when you master your mind, you master your fate. You bend reality around your beliefs. You stop reacting and start creating. That is the mindset Napoleon Hill tried to scream from the mountaintops, that your thoughts are seeds, and your faith is the water, that clarity of purpose is more valuable than gold and persistence. Persistence is the furnace that turns belief into destiny. Let the world call it crazy. Let them mock your rituals, your vision board, your relentless schedule. Let them laugh. But while they laugh, you build; while they doubt, you work; while they sleep, you rise. And one day, they will ask you how you did it, how you built something from nothing, how you walked through fire and didn't burn, how you broke through when everyone else broke down, and you'll look them in the eyes, not with arrogance, but with the quiet power of someone who knows it was never about luck. It was about becoming someone who could not be broken, could not be bought, could not be distracted, could not be stopped. That's the one mindset that creates wealth. Not someday, not maybe. Now. So. Rise, don't wait for a sign. Be the sign. Don't wait for the door, build the door, and if it's locked, kick it down. The world doesn't owe you anything, but it will reflect what you demand from it. And if you dare to believe with conviction, with clarity, with fire, the world will move, not because it wants to, but because it has no choice.